Allow me to introduce you to the beautiful concept of ego harmony. Now, you have probably heard people talking about things such as killing the ego or, maybe just transcending it. A lot of spiritual teachers, they have talked in great detail and in great length specifically about these topics. And ego harmony, it's not entirely different. There's a lot of things that overlap with these concepts, but there are some crucial distinctions. And first and foremost, I really want to say specifically about this notion of killing the ego. Because I think the real spiritual teachers that are worth listening to, they will not tell you to kill your ego. Because guess what? killing in general, that's a purely egoic desire. The true you, it does not have any desire to kill, and it does not have the desire to kill your ego either. And now, transcending the ego, it's also something that with me it does not seem, or it does not sit fully right, for really one simple reason. And that reason is that there is a reason we have an ego. Nature does not make mistakes. We have an ego, and I believe that the reason that we do have an ego is so that we can learn to find harmony with it. And if you listen closely here, you will notice already that finding harmony with your ego implies, again, one thing: that you are not your ego. And humans on this planet, they're on different levels of, let's say, awakening. It's a term that I think has been greatly misused in our times, but in general, I think it is the right term to use, awakening, because when you're completely unawakened, you're completely unconscious, you believe that you are your ego. And the first, let's say, level of awakening is to recognize that that is not the case. It's to recognize that who you really are, is the awareness behind your thoughts, your emotions, everything. It's the awareness. You are the awareness that is noticing that you have an ego, that is noticing that you have thoughts. That is who you are. If that is the first time that you hear something like this, well, this is your awakening. But in this world that we do live in, I think specifically through mediums such as social media, a lot of people are quite awake, actually. That's what I feel. I feel a lot of people are quite awake. They know that they have an ego, and they know that they are not their ego. But despite that, the ego is still in control. And that's where this desire, this egoic desire to kill the ego, that's where it comes from, right? And that's why for people who, or if you're someone that is still driven by the ego, controlled by the ego, that's why the idea of killing it makes sense. It makes sense. Because that's what the ego knows, killing. If you don't like something, you kill it. But again, first of all, it's, as I said, it's a very egoic desire in and of itself. But also, it's a futile attempt. You cannot kill the ego. You cannot. How can you kill something that you can't even touch? It's a human concept. It's a concept based in physical reality, killing something. You cannot kill your ego. What you can do is take back control. And not just take back control because, control, again, it's an egoic desire, but more so just recognizing that you do not need to let the ego be in charge. You do not need to react to the ego. There's really two major components when it comes to. I really don't like saying taking back control. I'll have to find a better way to put it, but there's really two major ways in which you can dissolve the ego's control. Number one, awareness. You just need to become aware. The more aware you are, the less power the ego will hold. Which means you just need to notice all the time, again and again and again. You need to notice what parts of your life are being shaped and controlled by your ego. Just notice the thoughts, notice the feeling behind the thoughts. Because the ego, it's very simple. It has two modes. One, it likes to feel like a victim. And two, it likes to feel superior. That's really it. Your ego, it will relate to any situation, either feeling as a victim or feeling better, feeling superior to others. That's it. And whenever you notice that in some way, shape, or form, you feel victimized by life, that's your ego. And if in some way, shape, or form, you feel better than something or someone, that's your ego. And your only task is to notice that. It's to notice that, not even say, but you can say in that moment, oh, this is my ego. This is just my ego talking. And then you don't react to it. And naturally, through noticing that, the ego loses power. The ego loses control because you see behind it. You see and you detach from it. That's why awareness is the first step to building ego harmony and getting, I haven't even really touched on what exactly the difference here is, what ego harmony is compared to, let's say, ego death. But we'll get to that, don't worry. I'm just laying the foundation here. So where was I? Ego, yes, awareness. Awareness is the first and always crucial step. And what is awareness? Awareness is presence. It's presence. It's actually being there. And you being there. Not your ego. Not your ego, because your ego, it's never actually really present. Or at least it has a very, very hard time being present. Your ego is usually just scheming. It's thinking about the future, or it's reminiscing about the past. And it's relating the present moment to the future or the past. And in relating, it's never actually truly present. So the cure to having an ego is awareness. And the second part is acceptance. The second ingredient to taking back that control. Again, I don't like saying that, but I guess it's the the way that it's coming through right now. Taking back control from the ego. The second part here is acceptance. Acceptance, or another way to put it, non-reactivity. Simply accepting the present moment as it is and not wishing for anything to be different. Simply accepting that, or understanding, like realizing that you can actually accept everything. It's a choice. You can. Your ego might not be able to, but you can. And it's a lifelong task, really. It's a lifelong journey, because there are always going to be ups and downs with like your relationship to your ego. And this is where I guess I'll bridge it over to this concept of ego harmony specifically. Now, I think that to truly find ego harmony, you need to experience some form of ego death, but not killing the ego. Again, I want to make the distinction very clear here. There is a crucial distinction between killing the ego and having an ego death. Killing the ego, it's an act almost, or it's seen as an act. It's a force behind it. There is a force. It's not power, it's force that is behind killing an ego. And having an ego death, it's more so something that happens. It happens naturally through awareness, presence, and acceptance. And the thing is, why I said earlier that killing the ego, or this desire to kill the ego, it's futile. It's because the ego, it can't actually truly die. It never truly dies. If anything, it goes dormant. It goes asleep, so to say. If you're very, very aware, if you're very present all the time, then your ego, it doesn't have any control. But the potential for it, it's always there. The potential for your ego to flare up, let's say, it's you can actually see the ego in a sort of pathological way. Even it's a very powerful framing. But I'm not gonna go too deep into that here. No, but your ego, it always has the potential to come back. And since you are part of this physical world and you're surrounded by unconscious people being people who still fully identify with their ego, and they might identify with their ego up until their death. It's very possible. But since that is the case and you are part of this physical world, it's very, very easy to get pulled back into that. It's very, very easy to get pulled back into falling asleep even after you've been awake or after you've been awakened. You can fall asleep very easily at any point. And this, I'm not saying this to make you put your guard up and be defensive and, withdraw from life and never interact with anyone out of fear of falling asleep again. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying you cannot actually kill your ego. And that's another fact that you need to just accept. And it's precisely because of this, what I do believe to be a fact. Now, I know people, they have different opinions on this. Some people, and maybe it's just a matter of detail, right? It might just be a matter of definition of the ego that makes me say that you can't kill the ego. Or no, that the ego can't truly die. But as I said, the best way, I'm just kind of I'm spinning with my thoughts here a little bit. Let me regroup. Ego harmony. Ego harmony means accepting the fact that your ego, it can't really die. And that's okay. So what is the next best thing that you could be doing instead of wishing for your ego to be dead? It's to befriend it. It's to build a healthy relationship with it. And I said that I think the prerequisite to finding ego harmony is to have an ego death. And I say that because after this ego dies, in quotes, there is the potential for another ego to grow, but it's one that can grow consciously and that can, with your guidance, grow healthily. That's the point here. And I really do believe that ultimately, this is what we're here to learn. This is what the human experience is about. And this is what some people on this planet, I feel like they naturally just know, like they have this ego harmony going on inside them. They have a deep relationship with God, with this higher intelligence, and they see it as part of themselves, but at the same time they allow themselves to have an ego. They simply don't allow this ego to control them. That's it. That is ego harmony. It's the allowance of having an ego, but not being dragged through life unconsciously by it. And what's the point of all this? Well, it's happiness. It's happiness, it's peace. And you'll find that when you just recognize that you are not your ego, and you begin being more and more aware, begin being more present, more detached from form, life is just naturally peaceful. It's naturally peaceful, and there's so much beauty, so much happiness that was always there. It was literally always there. It was just your pain-addicted ego that kept you from experiencing it. And again, the point of ego harmony is to see that there is value in having an ego. There really is. And again, this might just go back to how you define an ego, because I think some people, they define the ego as inherently problematic, inherently a problem, and they define it almost as unnatural. But as I already said, I believe that ego is natural, otherwise we would not have one. We have an ego, and there is a reason why we have an ego. The same way there is a reason why a flower grows the way it grows, because nature wants it that way. Nature has designed it that way. And we have an ego, and I believe the reason why we do have an ego is so that we, with our true being, the being that is not your ego, the being that can, as I said, notice that you have an ego, our goal is to learn to build that relationship with your ego. And it's a relationship of duality, right? Of yin and yang. It's a relationship where you need to realize that the ego, it will always be a part of you. It will always be a part of you. And the best, and you just need to make the best of it. You just need to be the guiding hand, the literal godlike presence that guides your ego. And I know some of your egos, of you watching right now, some of your egos, they just shuddered at me saying that you need to be the godlike presence. Why? Because your ego, it still believes that you and God are two separate things. But they're not. And your ego, it might interpret me saying that you're God in a way where if you were to accept that, if you were to accept that you are godlike, then you would be superior to others. Again, this is what your ego does, right? It wants to be superior. And if you're godlike, well, you're better than the others because they're not godlike. Well, guess what? They also are. Everyone, everything in this universe is God-like. And listen to the word like here. It means that you are like God in some way, shape, or form. You are not the creator. You're not the one creator. Or maybe you are, honestly, who knows? I mean, who knows? But there is nothing egoic about it. There's nothing, your ego does not need to get any feeling of superiority from this statement that you are the godlike awareness. It's just what it is. There's nothing good or bad about it. It's just a fact. It's just isness, if you could call it. And how do I wrap up this video? I mean, I have really decided to let this be my purpose for now. At this point in my life, let this idea of ego harmony be something that my whole content and everything is focused around, because as I said, I really do believe that this is ultimately what we're here to learn on this life experience. It's to learn to build that harmony, to find that harmony with your ego. So of course in this video I did not talk about every little aspect of it, but with time, you know, it will unfold. The path, it illuminates as you walk it, and I want you to walk it with me. Whether you're at a point in your life where maybe you still are identified with the ego, right? But you feel that something just doesn't feel right anymore. The way that you've been taught life works, it's something just doesn't really feel right. Or maybe you're at a point where you already feel that you have awakened, right? You have had those realizing moments where you understood that you are not your ego, like you are not your thoughts, you're not your emotions. And you maybe manage to even pop out sometimes. You manage to look at it from like the third person perspective, so to say. And you do that every now and then, but you still feel like your ego, it has some control. It has too much control for your liking. If either of those are the case, then I am inviting you to join a community that I'm beginning to build now called the Ego Harmony Society. And the Ego Harmony Society, it's really, at this point in time, the purpose that it serves is simply to be a space where you can be reminded of what you are. You can be reminded of what you are, and you can have reflection from others, right? You can share your experiences, you can share your difficulties with your ego. And ultimately, it's really just supposed to be a space of presence. Because as I said, the real difficulty, let's say, with staying awake is that it's a lifelong task. It really is. There is no one awakening and then you can never fall asleep again. I mean, in some sense there is, but you can awaken and still live a life that is controlled by your ego. And that's what we're looking to stop, right? We're looking to stop you being dragged around by your ego, and instead finding harmony with it, befriending it. And as I also said in the beginning, if you've never really experienced an ego death, then this is just a theory, right? Based on my personal experience. But I do believe that there is a necessary ego death before you can truly find ego harmony. But as I said, there's a lot to go into. And right now, as I said, this community space that I'm building, it's really it's something that can grow on its own, right? It will grow on its own. And my current plan for it is very loose, and I want it to be exactly like that. I want it to be exactly very loose, and that's also why I'm calling it a society, right? Because I want you to be a part of how it's getting shaped. It's not gonna be some, it's not gonna be me just putting out courses and that kind of stuff in there. Although, the possibility for that is certainly there. But at this point in time, the most important thing is simply to create a space where you can express yourself. Where you can express yourself and find that awakening and stay awake. Most importantly, stay awake. And let me preemptively answer a question that I'm sure some people might have, because this community, it's not free. And there is really only one reason why I have decided that it is not a community that is free, and that is commitment. As simple as that. Because you still have an ego. You still have an ego. And again, since we're looking to build ego harmony, that's going to stay that way. Right? You're always going to have an ego. And the ego, well, if it pays money for something, it wants to get something out of it. It's as simple as that. And because of that, I have decided the best way to get you to commit is to not make it free. Think about it. If you go to a gym and it's free, you're not gonna go. But if you pay money to go to the gym, you want to get something out of it. And honestly, the more money you pay, the better. Because if you pay like $50 a month to be able to go to a gym, it's very likely, depending on your financial situation, that you still might not care. But if you pay $10,000 to, work with a personal trainer, you're gonna show up. So right now, the entry to the community, it costs $22 a month, or you also have the option to commit yourself for a lifetime for 10 times that amount. And maybe, maybe at some point in time, the community will actually become free. But for now, in the beginning stages, I do believe that the best way to go about it, to actually build something worthwhile, build something valuable, is to have some sort of symbolic price, right? $22, it's really not a lot of money, at least for most parts in this world that I assume that you come from. It's really not a lot of money, but it's enough money to where you hopefully care. So with that, stay tuned for more content on ego harmony, and have a blessed day.